So I received, the first item is apologies for absence, and we've received apologies from Councillor Chauhan and Councillor Chatterton. Thank you. Item 2 is urgent business. I've not received any notification for any urgent business. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Do any members have any interest to declare on any matter before Cabinet this evening? I take silence to mean no. Okay. Item 4, public question time. I've not received any notification for any public questions. No. All right. Item 5 is minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 17th of February 2022 and the 28th of February 2022. Does the Cabinet agree those minutes as a correct record? Agreed. Thank you. Item 6 is Revenue Monitor and Capital Investment Programme 2021-2022, month 9, December 2021. Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is the last of the quarterly report that we bring to Cabinet for approval of the revenue budget and for the capital programme for this current year. So as you'll see, Chair, from the report, that we're predicting that the revenue budget will have a surplus of £2.68 million by the end of the year. We're quite confident that we'll be able to achieve this. In terms of the detailed expenditure in each of the directorate, Chair, if you look at page 16, it gives you the highlight figures, and you'll see from there that the overspend is in community health and other social care by 2.433 million, and a bigger overspend in children's services of 3.969 million pounds. But there are other underspend, notably in the treasury management in respect of the, communities and reform in respect of the capital programme. So in terms of sort of giving you an overall summary, Chair, then I'm confident that we'll be able to produce a balanced budget for this year, but we reckon there will be a surplus of just over £2.5 million. In terms of capital, Chair, the programme was quite large at the beginning of the year, over 86 million. Unfortunately, there's been a very substantial slippage due to COVID mainly. That programme has been revised, and the original expenditure has been reprofiled for the future years. And we're predicting that this year, at the end of the year, the total expenditure on the capital programme will be just over £38 million. Again, it's detailed in the paper. With those comments, Chair, I'm happy to take any comments from colleagues in the room. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. Does any member wish to speak? No? Okay. So the recommendation... No, sorry. Are those recommendations agreed then? Agreed? Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you.
Item 7 is the housing delivery strategy. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is an update, really, I think, because we're about halfway through the lifetime of the housing strategy that we agreed in 2019. So the report summarises significant progress that we've made, despite everything, all of the pandemic and everything, including establishing a new strategic housing partnership where we're working with our partners across the borough, bringing the housing options service back in-house, reforming our allocations policy to prioritise those in housing need, producing new strategies on tackling homelessness and the temporary accommodation strategy, and delivering 19 eco-friendly 5-bedroom council homes at Primrose Bank and 20 apartments at Hollybank, supported living for people with learning disabilities. The report also sets out our housing delivery strategy with Labour's priorities for the next period to the end of the housing strategy. And this includes unlocking brownfield sites as part of delivering our Brownfield First policy and saving as much of the borough's greenbelt as possible, including Thornamold Road, Hanging Chadder and Spinners Way. More detail about the developments at Durker and Southlink are in separate reports tonight, so I'll talk about that when we get to those. Delivering up to 2,000 homes in the town centre. And our small sites programme, which will be building on council-owned sites at Lancaster House in Royton, Dewey in Coldhurst, Flint Street in Durker, James Street in Failsworth, Estate Street in Hathershaw and Farm Road in Limehurst. These will be a mix of bungalows and family homes, low or zero carbon, funded by our housing revenue account and subsidised by Homes England. Now, it's taken us quite a long time to get to the position that we're in tonight to be able to move forward with a planning application for those sites almost within our site. There's a lot of work you have to do before you can actually start building something. But I'm really pleased to be able to present to us tonight the progress that we've made and what our immediate plans are. And the Cabinet is being asked to endorse the action being taken and to approve the housing delivery programme of work. And I think most importantly, Cabinet is asked to delegate authority to the Director of Legal Services or their nominated representative to sign or affix a common seal of a council to all contractual documentation associated with the recommendations made in this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts, and I think a big thanks from me before I invite other members to speak for bringing this much needed report forward. It's been symbolic, it's important, and it's exactly what we need to address the housing need in Oldham. So well done for everything that you've done to get it this far. Would any other member like to speak? Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank Councillor Robert for this strategy and this report. Can I also thank her for the plan to build 2,000 new homes in the town centre, Chair, because this is much needed in the borough. And, you know, if you look at my weekly casework, then you'll see housing is number one. And I'm so delighted that you've been able to bring this report and to hopefully start the work in those sites quickly as possible. But also, can I just say, Councillor Roberts, on page 67, you talk about 2.24, the development at West Vale, 88 new homes in Coldhurst, the infill sites, number of sites across the borough, but also some in Coldhurst as well. So I'm very, very grateful for you for that. Can I make two other points, please, Chair? In relation to this strategy, I'm very pleased to see that the green agenda is taken very seriously and commitment to deliver zero carbon homes. Thank you for doing that. I think at the last council meeting, Chair, there was some confusion about whether we actually built any houses in the borough recently. Well, you confirmed it tonight. We actually built 19 homes, which is almost zero carbon. And by the way, Chair, just for clarity, we got over £800,000 a grant from the European Fund to put in renewable technologies and other features to make the homes very efficient. So I just wanted to make that very clear. Unfortunately, the Mayor wouldn't let me speak at the council meeting. So thank you for letting me speak and putting that record correct. But I'm absolutely delighted, Chair, under your leadership, Councillor Robert has been able to bring this much needed report, and I'm sure it will help thousands of families in Oldham. Thank you very much, and I really do welcome this report.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. Would any other member wish to speak? No? Okay, so I think the recommendations for this will be considered later on in the agenda due to commercial sensitivities, won't they? So we'll move on to item 8, which is the selective licensing of private rented properties, and that's you again, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a very lengthy report, which reflects the lengthy legal process that the council has to go through in order to be able to set up a selective licensing scheme. And so it's taken us a long time to get here, and this was something that was really affected by the pandemic, because the same officers who were responsible for doing the detailed consultation and producing this report were exactly the same officers who had to enforce a whole load of the regulations that came out, which were keeping us all safe during lockdown. So selective licensing is a tool to improve standards in areas of the borough with a high private rented sector. Many landlords provide good homes that are of a good standard and well maintained, but too many others are either unaware of their obligations or unwilling to meet them. And selective licensing is a tool to ensure that private rented tenants live in safe homes. Selective licensing is ring-fence. That means that the fees that are received from landlords for the selective licensing scheme are only spent on the selective licensing scheme. They cannot be spent on anything else. They do not disappear somewhere into the council's coffers, never to be seen again. The recommendations are that we should take a two-phase approach. So we've identified those areas which we think are in highest need, and those are the ones which we are recommending tonight enter into a scheme. I think I'm supposed to say from the 1st of April this year. I think that needs to be added to the recommendations in the report. The fee that we're being asked to approve is an application fee of £340.34 and a compliance fee of £241.66. And we have to split the fee like that following some case law that was emerged during the previous period. This is a one-off fee for a 5-year period, which comes out at approximately £2 a week per home. So phase 2, we'll be carrying out further consultation as required in the legislation, and if all of the requirements are met, we will apply to the Secretary of State for additional areas to be included. Just want to make it clear that the council can only agree a maximum of 20% of the borough's private rented stock under our own powers. If we wish to apply selective licensing further across the borough, then we have to get the Secretary of State's approval. And I know that in the consultation period, some of our landlords did ask why we didn't just do the whole borough, because they felt it was unfair that some areas were selected. And there are two reasons why that's not the case. The first is that it's extremely unlikely that the Secretary of State would approve a whole borough scheme. They fairly recently turned down Liverpool, for example, who tried that. And secondly, not all of the borough meets the requirements to be able to set up a scheme. So that's the reason why we're going for this two-phase approach. And I just want to say as well that the selective licensing scheme sits alongside our private tenants charter, which sets out clearly obligations and expectations for both tenants and landlords, and what the council will do to support both, including, for example, advice to tenants and landlords around obligations such as tenants paying their rent, and both rights both for the landlords and tenants in terms of dealing with things like evictions. So the council is taking seriously its obligations to all of those people who are involved in the private rented sector in the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Would any member like to speak? Councillor Mushtaq.
Yeah, just to thank Hannah, actually, because I had a number of questions on this, but she's given such a comprehensive outline of the report. She's answered everything. So thank you, Hannah.
Brilliant. And I just think it's a really important scheme. I know as we door knock and as we will be doing as we head into the election period, we often see substandard, not even substandards, really, really poor standard of housing in certain areas. And I think will really give people, especially our residents who probably pay a significant amount of rent and live in properties that just aren't habitable, some kind of reassurance that we're on their side. So thank you so much for bringing this forward. I think it's going to mean a lot to a lot of people. And if you're a landlord, it'll be a good thing for you, because it means that you've got a property that meets a decent standard. So I think it's a win-win whether you're a landlord or you're a tenant. So well done for bringing that forward. So are the recommendations in that report agreed? Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to item 9, which is Councillor Roberts, you again, and it's the disposal of vacant land at Durka St James's.
Well, yeah, we've been very busy. That's all I can say. So the recommendation before you tonight is about developing land at Durka. So I think we all know The plots at Durka have been vacant since the coalition cancelled the housing market renewal scheme, and we've struggled to be able to develop them without the kind of help that we had anticipated getting through that programme. So what is in front of us tonight is the Cabinet's being asked to agree to dispose of 3 plots to meet the very stringent deadlines that we have for the Brownfield land subsidy that we've acquired from the Greater Manchester. We're proposing to dispose of it to Hive Homes, which is a consortium of registered providers across Greater Manchester. We have written a detailed prospectus for 134 homes to be built on the site. 44 of these will be affordable zero carbon homes and 90 low carbon homes for sale. This is a gas-free development. And I'm assured from Hive Homes, I went to look at a development that they've recently just completing in Middleton just last week, that they are ready to start work as soon as Cabinet has approved the report tonight.
Great news. Any member wish to speak? No? Well, I can certainly say that when the chief executive and I did the leader event in St James's, this came up, and the fact that residents there felt neglected because the land had just been there for so long. So I'm sure that they will welcome this move and Cabinet's approval tonight. I do know, though, that recommendations again with this item are going to be discussed later, again due to commercial sensitivities. So we'll have that discussion further down the line. And for now, because there are no other members indicated to speak, we'll move to item 10, which again, Councillor Roberts, is you. So you have been exceptionally busy. So it's the disposal of land at Southlink.
Thank you, Chair. So Southlink is the second site that we received subsidy from the Brownfield Housing Land Fund. We're not as well advanced with this, and we do have slightly longer to get on site. We're looking at building up to 150 homes, and what we're being asked tonight to do is to identify somebody to build those homes for us, basically. The Southlink site is the site of the Oldham station. It's partly owned by us and partly owned by Transport for Greater Manchester, and sorting out the legal details around land ownership and so on has taken us some time. However, we have begun to do some work on the site. We've cleared the site, and we've made a start on the access road because it needs a new access road. And what we're looking at is a mix of houses and low-rise on this development. And again, given the council's policy, we'll be looking for either low-carbon or zero-carbon homes.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Would any member wish to speak? No? Okay, so again, with that item, the recommendations will be considered later on in the agenda. So we'll go on to item 11. We'll give Councillor Roberts a break, and over to you, Councillor Mushtaq, for Special Educational Needs Transport Service, item 11.
Thanks, Chair. I do feel I should ask Councillor Roberts for permission to speak. But the item is Special Education Needs Transport Service. So this is the SEND school to home to school transport. Recommendations are in front of you, including delegated authorities given awarding the initial mini competition of 200 plus routes and any subsequent mini competitions during the lifetime of the tender. There was the option of this to be extended in August 2022 when it expires, but we felt that it was important to reopen the tender process because there are firms from outside of Oldham currently delivering the contracts. So there was a consultation process in which it was opened up to a wider, more local firms, and they were helped, advised, consulted on, and given some helpful hints as to how to be successful in the process. So we thought it was quite important to do that, giving others the opportunity. But also factored within this is the increase in cost of living. So that's also factored, again, really important given the current climate and in the context of what's happening. So the recommendations are set out in front of you. The preferred option is option 1, which is to complete the retendering exercise, and within that is to explore option 3, which is to look at effectively bringing it in-house, but clearly that's a much longer piece of work than August 2022, and hence why that's embedded within option 1. So it's recommended to Cabinet to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mushtaq. Would any member wish to speak? No? Do we agree the recommendations of the report? Brilliant. Okay. Item 12 is holiday activities and food programme. Councillor Moores.
Thank you. This paper seeks to continue the excellent work that took place during the previous HAF programme. I visited a few of the things that were going on during the summer holidays, and really brilliant work going on there. We intend to do this by building on the processes we already have in place and establishing systems that will allow us to deliver a diverse range of exciting holiday activities for eligible children and young people. And to do this, we need to approve acceptance of the next round of HAF funding, agree a tiered payment method for the providers, and to put in place a small team to manage delivery of the programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moores. And we know that's had a significant impact on people across the borough, so it's a really important piece of work. Would any member wish to speak on that report? No? So do we agree the recommendations of the report? Brilliant. Thank you so much. So item 13, the Priority Programme Fund for the VCFSE support. Councillor Akhtar.
Thank you, Chair. The voluntary community and fair sector have played a very sort of crucial, pivotal role over the last couple of years in supporting the most vulnerable across our borough. And the COVID situation highlighted that how important in terms of our voluntary community and fair sector is. So the report in front of us is to seek approval to allocate grant funding from the Priority Programme Fund, renewing all grants for 1 year and extending the grant to Action Together for 3 years to enable them to provide the voluntary sector infrastructure support, including intensive and specialist organisational development across the borough for the next 3 years. It sort of, in a way, sort of sustains the future for Action Together for the next 3 years. Rather than them worrying about their own future, they can concentrate on supporting the voluntary and community and faith sector across the borough and try to attract external funding into the borough, which is what crucial and vital to ensure that our voluntary sector is sustainable over the next few years. So I'll move the recommendations in the report, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Akhtar. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but do we have to ask members if they'd like to speak on the report before you do that? Does any member wish to speak? No, I think I'll just take the opportunity to say that you're absolutely right. They deserve this. You know, they've been vital in our response to the pandemic and our recovery, and they've been a magnificent amount of support for like small groups that have really stepped up during the pandemic and supported some of the most vulnerable people in our society. So I think it's the right thing to do. So do members agree with the recommendation of the report? Brilliant, thank you. So item 14 is the, again, Voluntary Community Faith Sector Investment Fund COVID-19 Recovery Grants. And I'm going to be taking this in the absence of Councillor Chauhan, if that's okay with people. So the purpose of this report is to seek approval to allocate £648,000 of the Contained Outbreak Management Fund monies to the previously established single grant for the voluntary community faith and social enterprise sector in Oldham, known as the One Oldham Fund. This investment would support the sector's resilience to enable key organisations to remain viable, to continue to deliver the ongoing COVID-19 response and to contribute to the delivery of Oldham's COVID recovery strategy priorities. So on behalf of Councillor Chauhan, that's the recommendations and the decision for the report. So do members wish to speak on that item? No? So do we agree with the recommendations of the report? Brilliant. So item 15 is the request for the approval to the Commission provision of the Oldham Health check. Again, I'll take this report in the absence of Councillor Chauhan. So give me a second, let me get to the... So the reason for decision is to ensure the continued provision of the Oldham Health Check to the Oldham population and to improve how health checks are provided and targeted. I think that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? So would any member like to speak on this report? No? So do we agree the recommendations for the report? Agreed. Brilliant. Okay, then item 16 is Oldham Council Local Full Fibre Network. Councillor Jabbar.
Thank you, Chair. So this report deals with the approach that we've got to improve our digitalisation. So this is about the Greater Manchester Local Full Fibre Network. We've got some grants from government, and we did a procurement, Chair, to assess the cost and the effort to light up and provide network services to 1,600 sites throughout GM, including 71 in Oldham Council buildings, and assets to identify a preferred bidder to deliver the GM one network. So that's now been, the procurement has been concluded, and what we're suggesting is that we go with GM1 network. This is a 10-year contract. This is with TFGM and Greater Manchester Fire Service. At this moment, there's Oldham Council, Stockport, Bury and Rochdale. There's possibility that the other local authorities may join. If they do, then the capital cost will reduce. But in essence, Chair, what we're trying to do with this is to actually significantly improve the user experience. So with this provision, this speed will go up by up to 10 times the current speed. So it will be obviously much faster and will help businesses as well as our institutions. So that's the recommendation, Chair, to approve that we go with GM1 solution.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. Would any member wish to speak on that item? No? So we're not going to agree the recommendations yet. We're going to discuss it in the later part of the agenda again. Okay, brilliant. So item 17, I'll be taking again this one for Councillor Chauhan. So it's the 2022 contract awards following tender process for Healthwatch Oldham and the NHS Independent Complaints Advocacy Services. So this report requests approval to award contracts for the provision of Healthwatch Oldham and the NHS Independent Complaints Advocacy Services. It also requests approval to extend the current contract provision with the existing providers for Healthwatch Oldham and the NHS Independent Complaints Advocacy for up to 2 months to allow for incumbent providers to implement the new contracts and allow for any transfer of undertakings or 2P implications. Would any member wish to speak on that report? No? Okay, so do we agree the items of... actually, hang on. No, that's got commercial sensitivities as well, so that will go to the second part of the agenda. Okay, then item 18 is COVID-19 grants for adult social care. Again, I'll take this item. So I think, again, it's pretty straightforward in the sense that all the report seeks is a decision to... hang on. Once upon a time, I used to get all these tabbed for you. And then I became leader in May and it stopped. So it's to update Cabinet on delegated decisions made in respect of various short-term government grants received to support the adult social care sector during the COVID pandemic and to seek retrospective approval for the utilisation of that funding. Does any member wish to speak on that report? No? No? Okay, so do you agree with the recommendations of that report? Brilliant. Okay, item 19 is exclusion of the press and public. Can I ask a member to move and a member to second the exclusion of the press and public to enable consideration of commercially sensitive information? Is that agreed? Thank you.